Opal the Mystic by Andrew FARKAS. Dedicated to my daughter Skylar. Nothing is impossible. Chase your dreams. Prologue. October 14th, 2025. The sky burned orange, a painted canvas of fire and dusk. The sun's dying light spilling through the canopy of branches above. A young man stood beneath them, breath steady, sweat slicking his brow. Droplets fell from his forehead, darkening the frayed, overworked fabric of his gloves as he hoisted a bale of hay onto the bed of an old farm truck. His muscles tensed, his boots dug into the dirt, and with one last push, it landed with a heavy thud. Smack, smack. The young man slapped the side of the truck twice. Then the driver turned the key. "See you next week, Bob." The engine rumbled to life, coughing out a thick plume of black smoke as the man gestured a thumbs up out the window. "That better not stall out again," the young man muttered under his breath, wiping his forehead with the stained rag from his back pocket. Dirty blonde bangs clung to his damp skin before flicking away as he swiped. He tipped his Stetson forward, shielding his eyes from the harsh glare of sunlight piercing through the trees. A shadow cut across his face, tracing the faint mustache and stubborn stubble on his jaw. Beep beep. Bob honked before rolling down the dusty two-track, tires crunching over the gravel. The truck meandered past the big red barn in the distance, its silhouette darkening against the setting sun. The air, thick with the scent of warm hay and lingering manure, stirred with the occasional gust of wind. Birds chattered, filling the void between moments of silence. The young man exhaled, shifting his weight. The two tracks split ahead, right toward the barn and left toward home. But home could wait. He wandered toward the wooden fence lining the auxiliary hay building, stepping beside it and leaning back against the post. His dark brown eyes scanned the tree line, shifting under the brim of his hat, watching. His finger slipped into his pocket, fishing out a pack of Marlboro Reds. With a practiced flick, he tapped it against his palm. Pat, 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 before peeling the back of the cellophane. A single cigarette slid free, meeting his lips as he stuffed the pack away and swapped it for his Zippo. The worn silver casing gleamed as he flipped it open, thumbing the worn emblem of an American flag. Dad would kill me if he knew I was smoking out here. The thought barely lingered before the flame caught, igniting the tip with a quiet sizzle. He inhaled deep, the burn of tobacco filling his lungs, and then exhaled slow, watching the smoke curl into the cooling air. He lifted his gaze toward the horizon where the sun melted into golden crimson, a familiar sight. A quiet moment. What the hell? His stomach tensed. There, streaking through the sky just above the treetops, was a light. Sharp, white-hot, trailing a tail of flickering silver. A shooting star? No. The way it pulsed, erratic and unnatural, sent a prickle of unease up his spine. The cigarette hovered between his fingers, forgotten. He took another drag, slower this time, eyes locked on that shimmering anomaly. The hairs on his arms stood on end. Something about it. "Boy, what the hell do you think you're doing?" The voice shot through the air like a rifle crack. He jolted so hard he nearly tripped over his own boots, the cigarette slipping from his fingers before he could even think to hide it. Shit. His pulse spiked as he whipped around, already knowing who he'd see. There stood his father, stomping over from the two-track, dust curling around his worn boots. The old man's overalls were just like his, except more tattered, more sun-bleached, more lived in. His scowl could have curdled fresh milk. Nothing, sir." His voice cracked like he'd been caught sneaking out of church early. "Damn right, nothing." His father's eyes, sharp as a hawk's, snapped to the still-smoking butt resting atop a pile of manure just beyond the fence. A muscle in his jaw twitched. "Next time I catch you smoking, you'll wish I didn't." The young boy loomed a good foot taller, while his dad's gut was nearly a foot wider. The young man had a towering natural height, the kind of build that made it seem like even gravity didn't want to test him. Yet, despite this, the young man swallowed hard, heart hammering. "Lucky the good Lord gave you that height, boy, or I'd smack you right upside the head," his father grumbled, nostrils flaring. When the boy didn't answer, his irritation deepened. "Back in my day, my father would've..." "Huh? What in the hell is that?" The old man cut himself off mid-lecture, one thick finger jabbing toward the sky. The young man turned, already knowing what he'd see, except now it was bigger. His stomach clenched. "I saw it a minute ago, Dad, but I swear it wasn't near that big." He licked his lips, dry despite the sweat on his face, and there weren't that many. His father squinted, brow knitting. "Seen what? The hell are those things?" "I don't know," but the young man's throat tightened as more lights bled into the darkening sky. A whole swarm of them, flickering, darting, unnatural. Then crack! A sound like the sky itself had split in half. Both men recoiled, arms flying up in instinct. The young man let out a strangled yelp, hands clamping over his ears. His father grabbed him by the arm, yanking him close as if he could shield him from whatever the hell was happening. "What in God's name was that?" The old man's eyes darted wildly across the sky, face pale beneath his sunburnt skin. "I don't know, Dad." The young man's breath hitched. His gaze shot back up, and there. The original object had multiplied, stretching into dozens, maybe hundreds. Bright, streaking trails cut across the sky, longer, angrier, burning through the upper atmosphere. Another crack. The ground trembled beneath their feet. His father stiffened. His breath quickened, and then something shifted in his expression, like a puzzle piece snapping into place. "We're under attack." His voice wasn't loud, but it carried, rough and sure. Then louder. "We're under attack. Quick, son, to the house." The old man didn't wait for a response. He latched onto his son's arm like a vice and barreled down the 2-track toward home, half dragging him along. "Dad, wait. I think they might be..." His father didn't slow, didn't even acknowledge him, just kept charging toward the house like the devil himself was on their heels. The young man struggled to keep up, boots kicking up dirt, and then, "Wait, Dad." His mother stood in the doorway. She wore a simple white blouse tucked into a long skirt, brown hair pulled into a tight top knot. Clutching a mixing bowl and whisk in one hand, she raised the other, first pointing to the sky, then motioning urgently for the two men to get inside. "You two get your asses in here now." Her voice, rough but clear, cut through the chaos above. The young man tore free from his father's grip, chest heaving. His gaze swept from his mother to the distant stable behind him, then returned to his father. "You go, Dad. Get inside with Ma. I'll be right behind you." His father wheeled on him, face darkening. "Boy, don't you..." "I need to find Buster." A moment of silence. The old man's jaw clenched, but when he looked into his son's eyes, something there, something resolute, made him nod, just once. "Don't you be stupid," he muttered before hobbling toward the house. "I'm sorry, Ma," the young man called, backing away. "I'll be right back." She shouted something, but her voice was swallowed by another crack. Louder this time, so forceful it rattled in his bones. The lights were different now, meaner. Fiery trails of smoke curled in their wake, stretching like claw marks across the sky. More of them, dozens more. The distant horizon erupted in brief flashes, impact after impact, like thunder with no rain. "Get your ass inside and grab me the shotgun," his father barked at Ma. He took the porch steps one at a time, each footfall landing heavy against the worn wood. Ma stood motionless, her face drained of color, eyes fixed on the sky ablaze with streaks of fire. This ain't real. This can't be real. The moment his parents disappeared inside, he whirled back around, cupping his hands to his mouth. "Buster! Come here, boy! Buster!" He took off toward the barn, breath ragged, throat raw from yelling. The world around him was coming undone, but all he could think about was that damn dog. Scamp had been with him his whole life, 17 years of loyalty. of chasing chickens and curling up by the fire in winter. Losing him had been like tearing a piece out of himself, one he hadn't been ready to let go of. His mother saw it, saw right through the walls he'd built around his grief, and brought home Buster. He'd resented the little pup at first, refused to let himself get attached. But Buster had wormed his way in, tail wagging, eyes wide, full of life. Now he had to find him. Buster! His voice cracked as he reached the barn doors. The horses inside were frantic, hooves slamming against the stalls, their neighs sharp with fear. Dust swirled in the air, stirred up by their panic. Overhead, the sky growled. The sounds were growing louder, sharper, more physical. Easy, fellas, he murmured, running a steadying hand down the nearest horse's face. Its nostrils flared, eyes rolling white. It'll be over soon. A whimper. He froze. Buster? Another whimper, softer this time, coming from the far right stall. He bolted toward it, shoving the door open with enough force that it smacked against the wooden beam. And there he was, curled up in the corner, ears pinned back and tail tucked. Buster boy, there you are. Relief crashed through him like a wave. He scooped up the trembling Samoyed, pressing his white, fluffy coat against his chest. Let's get home to Ma and Dad. He turned and sprinted, boots sliding through the churned up mud outside the barn. The meteors weren't just distant streaks in the sky anymore. They were coming down. Hard. A sharp whistling ripped through the air above him. Boom. His body moved before his brain could catch up, ducking instinctively as an explosion of dirt and debris erupted just 100 yards away in the crop field. The ground shook beneath him. Holy shit! Another meteor screamed past, crashing somewhere in the woods beyond the barn. His breath came fast, his chest tight with adrenaline. Buster's bladder let go, soaking his overalls, but he barely noticed. He was seconds away from doing the same. Then, boom! A fireball the size of a truck slammed into the earth 50 yards ahead, sending a shockwave that hit him like a sledgehammer. He was airborne. Mud, sky, darkness, then impact. The breath tore from his lungs as he hit the ground, hard. The world tilted, his ears ringing like a church bell, had been struck inside his skull. I'm alive? He blinked, vision swimming. The sky above was chaos, a biblical storm of fire and smoke. Meteors rained down in an endless shower, tearing through the atmosphere with violent, merciless force. Is this the end of the world? A soft whimper pulled him back. His stomach lurched. Buster. He scrambled upright, ignoring the pain, screaming through his limbs. His arms were caked in mud, his overalls ripped, but none of it mattered. His eyes locked onto a small, unmoving shape a few yards away. No. He stumbled forward, dropping to his knees. His hands shook as he pressed his fingers to the pup's chest. A heartbeat. He let out a shuddering breath. He's still breathing. Cradling Buster against him, he pushed himself to his feet. His legs were weak, but he forced them to move, trudging through the mud, back toward the 2-track, back toward home. It felt like miles. Each step was heavy, the weight of the world pressing down on his shoulders. The house loomed ahead, porch light flickering against the storm-lit sky. He clutched Buster tighter. We need to get to the cellar. I need to. We need to get to the cellar. I should have told Ma and Dad to go to the cellar. Shit. A deep crackle split the air behind him. A low, menacing hiss, like hell licking through the sky. Oh God. The boy spun just in time to see it. A meteor the size of a car, screaming through the atmosphere, its fiery tail slicing the darkening sky. The sound escalated into a deafening roar. Heat rolled off it in waves, searing his skin even from a distance, the air around him warping like a mirage. Run! His mother's voice, a raw, desperate shriek, cut through the chaos. He snapped his head toward the house, his parents on the porch, their arms flailing, their mouths open in silent screams against the cacophony of the sky falling. The whistle overhead turned into a guttural howl. The boy's legs locked. He clutched Buster tighter against his chest. His mind, in a split second of chilling clarity, connected the inevitable. What was coming, what was about to happen, what he could not stop. Then impact. Boom! The meteor slammed into the house, and for one horrifying instant, the world went white, then red, then black. The blast ripped the structure apart, wood and metal erupting like grenade shrapnel in every direction, a force that sent shockwaves rolling across the fields. The sheer power of it hurled the boy backward, flinging him like a rag doll. He hit the ground hard enough to rattle the brain in his skull. Then, pain. Blinding, agonizing pain. He gasped, but his lungs felt wrong, pierced, maybe, or just refusing to work. His body, his arms, his chest, everything burned, ached. He couldn't scream, not at first, but then, ah! His own voice ripped through his throat, barely registered over the roaring flames and the debris raining down like molten daggers. His vision blurred, but through the dust and heat waves he saw it. The house, or what was left of it. Black smoke billowed upward, curling into the night like a funeral shroud. The inferno swallowed everything. Wood beams collapsed inward, the front porch disintegrated into embers. His home, his parents, gone. No. No, 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 no. A choked sob tore from his throat, his vision tunneling, heart slamming against his ribs. He needed to move. He needed to get up. He went to wipe his face with his right hand, but when he tried to move his left, pain exploded. A scream ripped from his lungs as his eyes locked onto the grotesque sight. Two jagged bones, white and glistening with blood, jutted through torn flesh. His forearm snapped in two. He gagged and wrenched his gaze away. His free hand frantically roamed his torso, searching, confirming shards of wood, metal, something sharp impaled his chest, his stomach. Each wound wept thick rivulets of blood, warm and slick between his fingers. His breath skipped. His skin turned ice cold. Oh God. Oh my God. His voice coming in gasps, barely audible over the distant impact tremors, the relentless, earth-shattering crashes of more meteors descending from above. He tried to sit up, failed. Buster. Where's Buster? He turned his head, scanning through the settling dust until his stomach dropped. The dog, his dog, was in pieces, entrails reflected in the flickering firelight, halves of his small, broken body flung in opposite direction. The young man couldn't breathe. A sound escaped him, something deep, raw, beyond grief. His fingers curled into the dirt, blood mixing with mud, as his mind fractured under the weight of it all. The meteors kept falling, the earth kept shaking, the fire kept burning, and he lay there, staring at the ruin of everything he had ever known. The air reeked of charred wood, blood, and something acrid, something else, burning his nostrils with every gasping breath. How the hell am I still alive? The thought barely formed before a fresh wave of pain reminded him that alive was a relative term. His chest heaved, struggling against the two jagged spikes of wood impaling his torso. Blood, warm at first, now chilling, as it mixed with the mud beneath him. His left arm hung uselessly at his side, the bone jutting through torn flesh in a grotesque, unnatural angle. A deep gash ran from his wrist to his forearm, slick and raw, the skin peeled back like wet paper. I'm going to die. And still, somehow he was breathing. The once fiery sky had darkened into a sickly, smoke-choked haze, the last remnants of daylight casting eerie silhouettes against the carnage. Flames licked hungrily at the debris around him, glowing embers swirling in the wind like dying fireflies. His right hand curled into a weak fist. I'm still alive. I'm still alive. He forced himself upright, trembling, his body barely holding together. His voice cracked as he tried to speak. "I'm still..." His throat spasmed, and a violent cough tore through him, spraying blood into the ash-thick air. His head dropped forward and a single tear traced a slow, burning path down his dirt-streaked cheek. His face contorting as the truth came crashing down in a choked sob. "Ma, Dad, Buster." His voice was barely above a whisper. "God damn it." The tears came freely now, carving paths through the dirt, and blood smeared across his face. He could taste the salt, the iron, the rawness of it all. The world was ending, and so was he. The edges of his sight blurred, darkening, fading in and out. His limbs had gone cold, his lips trembling as his body rapidly lost heat. This is it. Somewhere beyond the haze of his failing senses, the sky twisted, a swirling tempest of fire and ruin. He fell back, unable to fight the pull of exhaustion any longer. All of it felt distant now, like watching a nightmare unfold from beyond a thick, unbreakable pane of glass. Then, footstep? Wet, heavy, boots sinking into the mud, squelching with each slow step. He turned his head slightly, vision nothing more than a murky blur of movement. The footsteps stopped just beside him, the boots so caked in mud they were indistinguishable from the ground itself. Voices? Multiple. Huh? Muffled and distant, like echoes trapped underwater. They spoke, but the words meant nothing. His mind teetered on the edge, and then darkness took him.